Welcome to Transforming Us podcast. I'm Jess.
And I'm Tamara. We're trauma-informed relationship coaches and old friends here to discuss common patterns and what leads us to paths of security.
You know, people are feeling overwhelmed and disconnected in their painful relationships, which often leads to mental health crises.
We want to share some new ideas and practices to help you cultivate curiosity, compassion, and to redeem the patterns in your relationships, starting with yourself.
Join us on this journey of transforming us. Grab a cup of coffee and let's dive in. Welcome back to the Transforming Us podcast. Today is a guest who is someone who has walked beside me through seasons of both deep joy and profound trials. Rissa Messer has been a friend for over 12 years. We've seen each other through adoption, grief, health crisis, and a lot of joy too. Rissa is an Enneagram Six, and if you know anything about sixes, you know that they are the loyal guardians, watching out for all of us to just be safe. But what we're going to talk about today is her journey as a six and so much more. I see her as somebody that is incredibly courageous and also has walked through the challenges of anxiety, and just can't wait for you all to meet her. So Rissa Messer loves to love people. She spent 15 years in self-contained special education, and she poured into students and families, discovering a deep love for shaping what comes next for them. Her commitment to advocacy led her to working in nonprofit development and marketing, where she could fight for stories still being written. Being an Enneagram Six has shaped Rissa into a champion of tomorrows, hope-driven, people-centered, and always having a plan for A, B, C, and so on. So at home, Rissa's great joy is her family. She is the wife of her bandmate turned college sweetheart, Christopher, and together they are raising their three children, Adelaide, Jeremiah, and James, learning as they go to biblically lead these two preteens and a teenager. As a worship pastor's wife, she's deeply connected to her church community and finds purpose in supporting the ministries of others. And it is her mission to stand in the gap and make known the good news of Jesus Christ. So, Rissa, I'm so glad that you are here and you are willing to do this. So welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we have been friends over 12 years and used to attend the same church together. And we connected over health and wellness.
We
right?
did. I needed you. I needed you badly. And you opened doors for me and helped me see things about myself that I did not know. So very, very grateful.
Yeah, that was a sweet season, raising some of our babies, going to the same elementary school, going to the same church, going on walks.
That's right.
Learning about how God made amazing foods to help nourish our bodies and heal chronic issues that we were having at the time. And strangely enough, we're still talking about that.
We are. We were just doing it. Yeah.
We were just talking about our mystery health challenges.
But it is always a thing. It is, what a time to be alive. I feel like that's how it always is. But I feel like, sometimes I ask the Lord, I'm like, why is this not easier? Why is it not easier to be in this human body?
Right.
But nothing ever worth doing is easy, I think is what they say. They being the wise ones,
Right.
That's
I
right.
100% agree. All right. So for the listeners who, want to know a little bit more about Enneagram Six and kind of that mental chatter, what is that like for you? Just in a nutshell.
Yeah. So I think the thing about sixes that can be confused is that our looking for danger is a looking for negativity, when really at its core, it's about protection, guardianship, not only of ourselves, but of the ones that we love so much. And when I say of the ones that we love so much, I'm not sure if this is a six thing or if this is a Rissa Messer thing, but I literally love everybody. I remember when I was teaching and I would help out with interviews, they would have candidates come in and I would be like, "Oh my gosh, I love them. I love that one." The next one would enter and I'd be like, "Oh, that person is incredible. I love them so much." The third candidate, I'm like, "This is the one." And they're like, "Rissa, there's one spot." And I'm like, how are we gonna do this? Because I love all 3 of these people." Because I immediately wanna tether myself to anyone I meet. And so, I think that serves me well sometimes because if I don't want to make that instant tethering, I trust that as, like, discernment that maybe that person, is not is not for me. Because typically I just love everybody. But
Mm.
that constant mental chatter, I feel like it's kind of like a big sister. Like, did you do this? Have you thought of that? Are you ready for this? Are you feeling okay? Should you do something about this? Like, how do you think she's feeling? Do you think he feels comfortable here? But I will say that constant scanning can make it really hard to fully rest, fully trust, and just be in a moment without analyzing it.
Mm.
And for a six, that can become overwhelming quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, that sense of, just always scanning. And it reminds
Yes.
me a lot of the Enneagram 1. Sixes and ones can get mistyped often for that inner voice, right? Like the
Right.
ones, it's more inner critic about doing something right or right and not wanting to do something wrong. And it's sort of
Mm,
like that pecking of what they're doing. Whereas for a
yes.
six, it's still that inner voice of like, but it's safety and it's,
Right.
predictability and certainty, and that same voice just is more based in fear.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I would say the loyalist has these profound gifts of reliability, preparedness, and like you said, that deep-seated commitment to people and the
Mm,
security of others. Um, their shadows, however, emerge as this hypervigilance and,
yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
describing, that mental chatter, um, seeking external reassurance to combat the core fear of
Yes.
maybe being without support or feeling like you've been abandoned. Um,
Right.
and that belief that they almost have to find their place in belonging, right? That
Yeah.
dependability and reliability. Um, so then from a faith-based context, I think of it like, often sixes, they lack that inner trust that they truly can know what to do in a situation. That's why they seek
Right.
that external support. But then twisting that into trusting Jesus,
Yeah.
trusting the Holy Spirit to guide you and to know,
Yeah.
and instead of outsourcing that to other people all the
Right.
time. So,
Right. That actually
yeah.
makes me think. And I can't remember if it was in a conversation with you or if it was in a conversation with my therapist, which really those are really one and the same. It's
I am
you
not a
have been
therapist.
you have been my therapist, have been to local therapy, um, but I remember somebody saying, you know, "I had the privilege, Jesse, of having an incredible father and fantastic brothers. I also have a beautiful, beautiful sister, and a phenomenal mother, but it was that dad and those brothers, even the one that's younger than me, he is my big brother. I almost got this, like, complex, in thinking that, like, man, they take such good care of me. I can't trust myself to make my own choices, make my own decisions, because they were so good at guarding me that I forgot I could guard myself as well, or that
Mm,
I could make choices, for myself that would also keep me safe. Because I feel like I depended so heavily on those men, and what an absolute privilege it has been to do that because so many people don't have that. But I do think it almost replaced my feeling of safety. So then, and I think we're going to talk about this, but when my dad passed away, he was, it almost felt like my safety was gone. And I
Mm,
couldn't find that felt safety. I couldn't find that inner safety because how was I ever gonna do that here on earth when Alan wasn't here anymore?
mm,
Um, and so, yeah, I think for me, he represented that. And so then when his body was gone from this earth and his soul was no longer here because he was with the Lord, I thought that my safety had left with him and
mm,
had to rediscover that. But yeah, just a little
mm.
interjection there.
Yeah. I think it's so beautiful because God gives us these gifts of, wonderfully trustworthy
Uh,
family and people that we
yeah,
can anchor ourselves to. And when we're afraid or there's a storm, like we know without a shadow of a doubt, they will protect us.
yes,
Um, but there's such a beauty in having the courage to learn your own agency, your own ability, your own capability to protect yourself, to
right.
find information, to maybe when no one else understands, like go on a path that you know God is leading you
Uh,
on and it not be because others gave you confirmation that you should do that.
yes.
That it's like an extra layer of health for a six. And I see over the last, I mean, when did we first start talking about the Enneagram? 2020?
Yep, yep.
Somewhere in there.
It was around 2020. Yeah.
Yeah. And just that journey of learning that self-trust and
Mhm.
challenging, not perfectly,
Right.
but that you can step into these, like, powerful moments where you
Mhm.
are on your own and God's with you.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm. Well, so as we talk a little bit more, I love hearing the patterns and if there's anything else that pertains to you as a six in your patterns, but I'd love to hear more of your story too.
Yeah. You know, I think in 2020, I feel like I was finally able to process, and I've actually told my husband this recently. I was like, for being someone who is who's been in education for all this time, and we learn about processing speeds and processing styles and things like that. I've learned that I emotionally process very slow, very, very slowly. And that's odd because I'm a very emotional human. My family will tell you that every emotion that I feel, whether high or low, is extreme. And so I'm very, very grateful that I don't get angry very often because when I do, apparently it's not great. And when I'm sad, I'm sad. When I'm happy, I'm like the most joyous person. And so my emotions, not only for myself, but for the people that I love and people that I don't even know. I mean, if you're crying, I'm probably going to cry too. If you are so happy, I'm gonna be the happiest girl with you. So it's odd to me to find after, like, critically thinking, it's odd to me to realize, "Man, you're kind of a slow emotional processor," and I mean that in, like, this way. Like, after my dad's death, I don't think I, like, properly, like, processed it until I was maybe in 2020, so that was, like, 2.5 years later. And then
Yeah.
we had a miscarriage in 2021, and I don't think I properly grieved that until March of 2022. And then we had an issue, a major issue with our, adopted son, and that was in November 2023, and I didn't really process it till, like, March 2024, and I'm like, "Hmm." And then I made a giant, decision, like, career-wise, and that was in October of 2025, and it didn't really hit me until, like, February 2026. I was like, "Whoa, what have you done? Like, what's going on?"
Wow.
Even though I love what I do and would never wanna do anything else.
Mm.
It's just crazy to me. I'm like, "Man, I take a little while to chew on it." And I think you and I were also talking about this as well, before we started, but I just feel like there are some things, and this may have nothing to do with being a 6 at all. This may just be Rissa Messer. But I like to sweep the uncomfortable things under the rug and just let them lay there, and maybe we'll come back to that later, but they don't feel good to feel. And I think, and I know that you and I have talked about this. I grew up as a pastor's child. I grew up as a teacher's child. I was very much in the limelight, the fishbowl of being pastor's child. And I feel like I just lived off the motto, the joy of the Lord is our
Mm,
strength. And so I thought that anything other than joy was not of the Lord.
mm,
And throughout the truth of lamenting and weeping and just sitting at the feet of Jesus, right? Like the joy of the Lord is our strength. It's okay, the joy. And I'm like, you know, in the last probably 6 years, like the Lord just continues to show me that He is the author of all emotion. And that because we are made in His image, I'm allowed to feel those things. It still is difficult for me though, which I think is why I sweep it right under. I'm
mhm.
like, we don't want to think about that. We don't want to feel that. Let's just put it over here. We'll feel it later. And then I do. I circle back to it. It's just like 3 or 4 months later.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, that's just kind of I don't know if that's a 6 thing or a human thing or a
yeah.
Rissa thing, but
Yeah, I think it's all of those things, you
mm,
know?
right.
What I would love to just respond to some of the things from a coaching perspective, but thank
Yeah,
you for your vulnerability and just
absolutely.
the parts of your story that you shared that are very painful. I mean, losing someone,
Yeah.
walking through miscarriage, and then just family traumas are they're overwhelming, and then what you described, how you process those emotions. Now, 4s, 6s, and 8s are in the emotional realness or reactive triad,
Yeah.
and so the emotions are right on the surface. But the
Yeah.
thing with 6s is even though they're in the head triad for intelligence, they're thinking repressed. So it
Mm,
means unproductive thinking. So what I
makes
hear
sense.
is you put the realness and the emotions that are fluid that come up easily for you, and then the thinking about the emotions
Mm,
is less easy for you to process them in what do I think about how I feel?
right.
And
Right.
sitting with them, you also have a 7 wing, is that right?
Yes, I do.
More strong 7
Very,
than
very strong.
5.
Very strong, yeah.
Yeah.
I am here for the fun.
Yeah.
I'm here for it, so
I think there would be a lot of people that would almost, if just on the outside, be like, "Rissa Messer there's no way she's not a 7."
right. Right. People are like,
Because
"Oh,
they don't know your inner world and your
yeah,
motivations and how you feel inside, but on the
that's right.
outside, you are like a party.
That's right. That's right." And so
And that
then get to know me in a very intimate way as you have. They're like, "Oh, okay, there is a lot of 6 in there." Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And that, positive reframing, not only with that 7 wing, but just depending on, family presentation, I think your
Yeah.
mom you've described, for instance, your mom, she has that just that caregiver, very 2-ish. I don't know if you said
Oh,
what
so
what
Jewish, yes.
okay. So that positive reframing and that, like, let's focus on the good and what so important.
Yeah.
But then when you're dealing with emotional realness, grief, lament, pain, physical, emotional, whatever,
Yeah.
it's like then it feels almost dismissive to a 4, 6, or 8 who's receiving that. So totally human
Yeah.
and the point of all this isn't to just peg you and say, Rissa, you're a 6 with a 7 wing and you have this
Right.
attachment style and all these things. And like, this is who you are. The goal for all these things that we talk about on this podcast all the time is integration. And like,
Right.
we aren't one thing. We learned we had to be this way to find safety, love, and belonging. But the
Exactly.
point is to try to get out of that and to be free. and
Right.
to
Yeah.
be in this state of shalom with God the Father, Spirit, Son, and be totally who He made us to be, which
Absolutely.
isn't just a 6, you know.
Mhm.
So, or for me, it's a 4.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, did you want to say anything more about, yeah, any of the pieces of your story that you've already talked about, whether it be adoption or, some of the grief?
Yeah. So, I think that when you lose someone or something, there's certainly a level of what ifs for everyone. I think it may be magnified for a 6, and that may just be because I'm a little dramatic. But I thrive. I thrive on loyal relationships that are reciprocal. I thrive on well-known routines, security, and death destroys that. And it sets fire to security and reality and routine, and being a 6 has just reminded me in those moments, and it's taken me a long time to get there, and I'm still on that path.
Mhm.
um but it has reminded me, grief has and death has, this, earthly death has reminded me that my most loyal relationship is Jesus Christ. And
Mm.
um he laid his life down for me. There is no greater loyalty. There is no greater act of love or demonstration of, standing with someone. And so I think that right there has been something that has been a massive focus of mine over the last probably 6 years. I mean,
Mm.
even I feel like my whole life has been leading up to that, but I just feel like, I rely heavily on loyal relationships. And so
Mhm.
then when my dad passed away, when we lost our baby, when my husband had a brain tumor in 2018
That's
and
right.
underwent an 11-hour surgery to have it taken out, and after everything with our adoption and the issues afterwards, I'm looking for something to anchor in. I'm looking for something anywhere to put that grappling hook in, right? Like I'm just needing anything. I'm looking for anything. Because I feel like as a 6, if you're not anchored in, you feel like you're just floating, and that's like the terror of a 6, to just be floating out. Like, when people are like, "I would love to go to space," I'm like, "No, I would never want to go to space." Just floating in, like, the black, like, abyss? No, I am not at all interested or intrigued in any way. But, man, just bringing myself back again and again and again and anchoring in Jesus Christ and being like, "Rissa, this is the best relationship that you'll ever have. This is the relationship that you should put all all of your hopes in, right? Like this is it." And yeah, so then with like adoption, that's one of the toughest things I've ever done.
Mhm.
One of the toughest things I've ever done, Jesse. And I know that everyone's story is different and unique and valuable. And for us in our life, it has been the most refining process I've ever been part of. I think the Lord has worked in me so much through our adopted son. He has shown me the power of restoration, redemption, forgiveness. He has shown me that, we only love because he first loved us. And that has been a recurring theme in our adoption story.
Mhm.
Um, Something that I think made adoption difficult and makes it even difficult now, is the fear of the unknown. When you invite
Mhm.
into your home and into your life and into your day to day, when you invite someone who has undergone immense amounts of trauma, you're inviting that trauma to also affect you and
Mhm.
then become secondhand trauma,
Yeah.
because you're walking this with that person now. And as a six wing seven, especially like where I'm like very, very strong seven, I'm like, ooh, yuck, no. Like, we're happy over here. We're happy. We're not going to feel that. And then the six is like, oh man, I'm kind of afraid we're going to feel that. Like, that feels really negative and yucky. And I just don't know if I really want to be part of that. That feels really, and yet the Lord has sustained me in that.
Mm.
But there is even now the fear of the unknown. What's he gonna do next? What's he gonna say
Mhm.
next? What is gonna happen next? What will my reaction be? Um,
Mhm.
can I control those extreme emotions? And that's when I think, man, I don't know how people make it out here that are not walking closely with the Lord. Um,
Yeah.
because he is that grounding. He is that anchor. Um, so yeah, I think that, I've done a lot of things in the last 6 to 10 years that have taken a lot of courage. And I think one of the most important things, and that is just, I've kept moving forward.
Mm.
Um, it's so easy to let fear cripple you, and the Lord continues to give me courage to put one foot in front of the other in
Mhm.
adoption, in pursuing a new job, in grieving my dad, in grieving the baby that we lost, in the things with my husband, and his health. So easy to talk about how good God is because He has been so so good. But I think sometimes it's more difficult to talk about the times when he could be good, but he chose to let you walk through something, and that in itself brings about goodness. So,
Mm.
I don't know, I'm probably just rambling, but,
No, you said
um
so many
yeah.
gold things in
Oh,
there about just the journey, the
yeah,
spiritual journey that, these phases of growth and development and how God is taking you to
right.
places that you wouldn't choose to go
No,
on your
no,
own. Yeah.
absolutely,
And it
absolutely.
reminds me, knowing we have the connection to being adoptive parents and foster
Yes.
care together, but also in disabilities. Just
Yeah,
thinking about how the gift of being reminded we are not able.
yeah.
We, you know, there are people who maybe have some very obvious outward disabilities that are this gift and this reminder of like, just be present, just enjoy the moment,
Yeah,
or feel your feels. Or we've talked about this, if you need to flap your arms to
yeah,
regulate your nervous system,
that's
do
right,
it.
that's
Like,
right.
but the reality is just, I think sometimes as Americans or whatever, we think we should be totally capable and able
Yes,
to walk through everything
yes,
without hesitation, but
right.
that's such a lie. We are
Mm,
made to be kind of dependent on our creator,
yeah,
to walk with him when we're scared, to reach for him when we need something to hold on to.
yeah,
And I think what you shared in each part of your story, it just reflects that you have a posture of dependence.
thanks, friend.
And it's
I
beautiful.
want
I
want
think,
to, I want to, I want
and
to,
I
for
know it's not easy to be in a state of dependence because it can feel like weakness,
mm,
but remembering what a gift it is to be in submission to um, the one who made you, and
that's
know
right.
that you can trust him, you
Yeah,
can walk with him, and these really difficult things. The fear that we feel is because we are afraid we can't, right?
right,
Whatever it is, but he
right.
can. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love we could go on and on about each part of your story in there. And I think it's fascinating too, just that seven wing, how much that pops up. And I
Yes.
think of the adventure of foster care and adoption. It's
Yeah.
like, let's do this. Let's love these kids. And then it's like,
Yeah.
whoa, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
This is hard,
Right.
you know?
The 7 says yes, the 6 says no.
I
Uh,
know.
it's a really odd pairing for me, and, like, when I think I'm like, "Well, we should do that." You know what? No, actually, now that I think about it, that would be really no, no, let's do it, that's fun, and then it's like, "Oh, hold on, there's at least 4 ways that we could die, and we don't need many ways to die." I mean, there are, like, 84 ways a day you can die just, like, walking around. I'm like, "No, we don't need to put ourselves." So,
Yeah.
it very much helps to be married to a 9.
Yeah.
Very, very much, because
Yeah.
he counters that for me. So,
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think
yeah,
that's a beautiful place to go in our conversation, just to hear a lot of people will share about their spouse and the pairing and how those numbers interact, because you
yes,
have, what you just described, these, you know, uh, you're assessing
yeah.
constantly
Oh,
and planning and, strategizing to make sure things are going to be okay.
yes,
And, he as a 9 has this very easygoing nature. And why don't you just describe Christopher?
absolutely. So I tell people, probably one of the ways I can best sum up, this fantastic man of mine is, um, our son recently came to us and he was like, "I'm feeling kinda anxious about, this," and told us, what was going on in his heart and mind, and Chris said, "Yeah, I was anxious one time," and I looked at him, I was like, "You were anxious one time? One time you were anxious?" I was like, "Buddy, I think I need to handle this one." Because Chris has not been anxious enough to tell anybody how to handle any anxiety, and I was like, "I'm not an expert in this, but I have lived experience for sure." But yeah, he was like, "Yeah, I was actually anxious one time." And so when that happened, and I was like, "Must have been awful for you that one time that you were anxious." Um, but I tell people too, there's, fight, flight, freeze, and then there's Chris over here floating. Like, Chris just floats down the river of life. You can always find him on a metaphorical inner tube, just letting life carry him. We were talking the other day, Chris is very, very, he is wickedly funny, but he doesn't really, say things where people can hear, and so he'll just, like, whisper things, and the people next to him hear, and we're all cackling because he's just, super funny. But he has a lot of, like, impulsivity, and so whereas I'm like, "Oh, man, okay, we're gonna jump off this cliff into this, like, waterfall." I'm like, "Let's look over, let's calculate it, who's gonna go first? We need to," and then I look over and Chris has already jumped. He's already off, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And actually, it just made me think of this. Um, when we were approached by our friend Heidi Sampson about, adopting our son, he was in kindergarten. She came to me and she was like, "Rissa, listen, I was at this conference and, we were challenged to write down the name of somebody that we thought would be a great candidate for like foster care. And your name just came to me and I wrote it over and over and over again. And I was like, thank you so much. That is so sweet. We're not interested. We have a 1 year old and a 3 year old, but Heidi, and Chris comes up. He's like, let's do that. We would love to do that. That's awesome. Thank you, Heidi. And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. No, I just said no. And he's like, why? What do we say no? What do we say no to being like obedient to Christ? And I was like, um, he was like, well, we at least need to pray about it. And it's just one of those things where, like, again, I'm measuring the cliff. I'm seeing how deep the water is. I'm thinking, okay, we need to stand here as a group and take some deep breaths. Christopher, where's Chris? And he's
He's in
already
it.
gone, and he just jumped. He's in the pool below encouraging everyone to come on. Um, that is my husband.
Yeah.
Um, and it's funny because I tell him a lot of times, I'm like, "You are not good for anxious people," because I'll be like, "Hey, I have this thing on the back of my arm. Do you think it could be cancer?" And he's like, "Absolutely." And he's making a joke, but he's like, "Oh, absolutely. I bet it's been growing for years." And I'm like, "Why would you say that?" Um, but that kind of humor helps me take myself a lot less seriously, which actually is helpful to
Mhm.
an anxious heart. Um, and so, yeah, he is a I think that the pairing of a 6 and a 9 is a dream come true
Mm.
because, I offer the stability and anchoredness that he needs, and he offers co-regulation. Like, I often tell people, I'm like, "Chris is like a walking therapy session,
Oh.
for me." Like, um, my nervous system, especially after being with him for the last 17 years, my nervous system, like, knows that that is home here on earth, and the Lord has
Mhm.
given me him as a gift. And so he just mellows me. He
Yeah.
mellows me, and, he'll tell me sometimes, he's like, I'm like, I'm go with the flow." I'm like, I'm nonchalant." And he's like, "You're the most chalant person ever met, if that's even a thing." He's like, "That's you. You are the chalantest." And I'm like, "Well, I just care deeply about things." He's like, "Yeah, no, you're not really go with the flow." He's like, "You're sweet. You're nice. You're, like, precious." He's like, "But don't don't get it wrong here. You're not
Yeah.
super go with the flow." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm working on it. I'm being chill."
Yeah.
But yeah, he's cool. He's cool.
I love that, and I love that you guys found each other and that there are a lot of connections for why the 6 and the 9 actually are really, really helpful for each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
So within the Enneagram, there's another triad called the harmony triad.
Okay.
So, I'm 147 in this grouping, right? Those numbers are really helpful for me to be balanced in the head,
Yeah.
heart, and the body, right? So, three sixes and nines are together in a triad. So
Yeah.
you actually do need each other in a lot of
Right.
ways. So, as a 6, a 9, and then the 3, those are all almost um, they remedy things for each other.
Mm,
And both of you need a bit of 3 to become assertive, to go for your dreams,
yeah.
to, you know, um, yeah, just find some energy to put into seeing
Yeah.
things through.
Right.
Um, but yeah, together, that calming groundedness
Mm,
and I would guess often peaceful, like
yes.
between the 2 of you is
Yeah.
such a gift.
We talk about that often, like, and I think that's probably why we love spending so much time together. Chris and I are like, I'm not, like, gallivanting off with the girls somewhere, and he's not, like, going to grab a drink with the boys. Like, there is definitely time and place for that. But I think Chris would say too, that our favorite place to be is in each other's presence because
Mm,
there is so much peace there. Um, and I mean, of course, that's not always true. But it is overarching, we mostly are very, very peaceful. We are a very peaceful couple. And I'm super, super grateful for that
mm,
because that everybody can say that.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you because so often, it's not a perfect science, but so often the sixes will identify that if they have insecure attachment or leanings, that it's more that anxious, preoccupied kind of style.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ask you if you feel like that's true of you. And then also, if so, what do you think has helped you grow more insecurity as you become more self-aware? Like you mentioned, going to therapy, you've learned
Yeah,
more about the Enneagram. Um, what do you
definitely.
think?
Um, I think so something that I've been really working on is practicing trust in my own inner voice. Just pausing and asking, what do I actually think? What do I really need? Instead of immediately scanning for outside reassurance. And I think that's because there is no amount of reassurance that could ever get me to the point I'm looking for.
Mhm.
I will never be satisfied because I can never know for certain that something is true, except for the Bible and my walk with the Lord. Like those, the Lord has been so gracious to me in that there was a season around 2020. I was like, oh my word, what if everything is falling apart? What if, if it seems that the outside world is falling to pieces, does that also mean that my theology, my faith, my understanding of the world and my understanding of Christ is also falling apart? Can I really trust that? Is that something I really, and the Lord was so gracious, and you were gracious, and Chris and all my other friends and family, and walked alongside me in that as I knew that I knew that I knew that my faith was real, and that nothing was truer or more real than Jesus Christ.
Mm.
But in that uncertainty, sixes have a tendency to spiral. We're like, whoa, like what's happening? Like the anchor is gone, the hook has come out of the cliff. Like I mean, and for Chris, man, he thought that was great, right? Like Chris loves that like uncertainty. He's like, "Oh, the magic of the unknown," and I'm over here like, "The terror of the unknown." We view it in a very different way. But I did make some notes and just said, I've learned a couple of things, and I've done a lot of work on my nervous system, and knowing that nothing Chris says, nothing that my therapist says, nothing that my doctor says, nothing that blood work says. Because see, that's like the thing,
Mhm.
like, for a while, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe I can make sure that I'm always healthy by getting blood work constantly," until I realized that blood work shifts day to day. And so sometimes the
Mm.
blood work that you just got done in February is no longer valid in June. And then I'm like, well, I have to have more blood work, and I've got to have more blood work and more x-rays and more ultrasounds. Um, Nothing will ever give me the level of reassurance that my mind yearns for.
Mm.
And it's a tough pill to swallow, but what I know and excuse me, what I know and what I remind myself of is that the greatest fear, right? The greatest loss, the greatest disaster, really the only true disaster that could not be figured out, remedied, or fixed is if we were separated from the love of God.
Mm.
And that just can't be, because Romans 8:38 and 39 tell us that nothing, not life nor death, angels, demons, present or future, or anything in heaven and earth can separate us.
Mhm.
And so I tell myself, I'm like, what is there truly to fear? Right? Like in any disease, disaster, diagnosis, debacle, death, any of that, any of that um, is covered by the reality that we can never be separated from the love of God.
Yeah.
And if I can never be separated from the love of God, then I am always safe, no matter
Mm.
where I am. I could be in the trunk of a kidnapper, I could be knocking on death's door. I could get the scariest diagnosis in the whole world. I could lose the people that I love the most.
Mhm.
I have.
Yeah.
And it is okay, because none of those things, as terrible and tragic as they would be, and as they have been, and as they are, none of those tragedies would ever even begin to compare to the unfixable loss of the love of God.
Mhm.
And that's what's beautiful, is that that is the one thing that can never be lost. It can never be
Exactly, yeah.
lost. I will always have it. I will
Mhm.
never have to yearn for that. I will never have to beg for reassurance from the Lord, because he is always mindful of me, and he knows what I need, and so I'm not wondering, if he still likes me.
Mhm.
He has to. He's my dad, you know? I'm not wondering if he still wants to hang out with me. I'm not wondering if I'm safe. Makes me like kind of like choke up because I've
Yeah.
just recently really been sitting in that. Like in the last year, I've really been sitting in that. Like, man, everything is literally okay.
Mm.
Because the only way it wouldn't be is if I was disconnected from the love of God. And Romans 8:38-39 says, nothing,
Mhm.
no height, no depth. The Psalms tell us that if you made your bed in Sheol, if you literally made your bed in hell, Jesus would, or God would find you there, right? He would
Mhm.
come into your darkest times. And I've watched that with my son. I remember telling him about a year and a half ago, I was like, I want you to know because at that point he was running from the Lord. He was 14 and it was like, I don't believe in God anymore. And I said, I completely understand that because you've walked a really hard road. And I can see where you would wonder where his sovereignty was in that.
Mhm.
But I told him, I was like, the beauty is that you don't have to love him in order for him to love you. He is there in your neglect. He is there in your hatred of him. Um, no matter what, you cannot deny that you are made in his image. And that is what I love because my son, even at that time when he was like, man, just like running from the Lord,
Mhm.
he even in that, could not help but be kind sometimes,
Mm.
and I was like, "You wanna run from it, but you're made in the image of God, and you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it." And
Yeah.
I would tell him, "The Lord the Lord is absolutely coming after you, and he will follow you anywhere." Even says, "If you make your bed in hell, I'll find you
Mhm.
there." So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think one of the ways that I've come to those kind of, thoughts and things is to just be intentionally still. It is not something that I excel at. I am a mover, I'm a doer, I'm on the go. I am always, engaged. So, being intentional with stillness and just letting his spirit wash over me and leaning into that, has been a challenge, but it's also been something, that has shaped me. So, yeah.
Mm. I love that. I love that you shared a specific practice. I would think, silence, stillness, solitude are important for everyone, but
Yeah.
each person kind of finds one of those that are like, "Oh, I need this the most."
Yes. Yes,
You
that's
know?
me.
Um, and the beauty of so much of what you said about like the heart of a six is afraid of uncertainty. They're
Yeah.
afraid of the danger around um the bend that they don't know what might happen. I mean,
Yeah.
the journey of what you shared is I came to a point of actually realizing, yeah, the world is pretty uncertain and it's actually pretty unsafe in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it
I
is.
can't rely on circumstances or not
That's
even
right.
people all the time to keep
Absolutely.
me safe. But if I have the love of God and I know He's watching over me, and I know that when I go through the shadow of death, when I go through hard things, He
Mm,
walks with me. He
mhm.
is holding my hand, and I don't have to do it alone.
Yes.
That type of lesson that says, bring on the mystery,
Yeah,
because everything that's mysterious should stay mysterious.
that's right.
And yet, the things that are certain, we must be certain of.
Yeah,
And then you can be free.
yeah.
Like, I mean, for freedom, Christ has set us free. And so,
Galatians 5:1. It's
amen.
on my wrist right there. Yeah. People are always like, "What kind of ratio is that?" Because a lot of people know that I'm like one of 5 kids. They're like, are you the first of 5? And I'm like, no. I'm like, this is for freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Like, because I am so just prone to wander and prone to go back into that slavery of fear. And,
Yeah.
just breaking free from that is
Yeah.
my life goal. And I feel like the thing that the Lord is working on in me in every season of life
Yeah.
is breaking free from that chain. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and so much of the work that I've been doing personally and that I do some with clients and stuff like that is just this soul care work and practices and things that allow you to learn to sit like we go through life like this, but just to kind
Yes.
of open up, stop grasping,
Uh,
start being loved.
yeah.
Like we are the beloved, right? And
Mm,
you can just say that so fast and
that's
just
right.
brush right past it. But what does it look like to be loved? Like there's
Yeah.
not doing, there's not striving, there's not a 5-step path. You just
Yeah.
are.
Uh,
And if you can sit in the presence of God and receive that, I feel like so much of everything else with this Enneagram work, when people want to learn about how to become healthy in their patterns,
right.
it comes back to that for each person is what does it look like for each person to truly
Yes.
be with themselves and be with God and to in your case like sit in the mystery,
Uh,
you know.
watch.
I put a question out in a newsletter about
Yeah.
loving the questions now from
Yeah.
Henry Nouwen that some things you will sit with for years and never get an answer, and that's okay.
You know what's crazy is like every like fiber, every strand of 6 within me is like, like the mystery, you're like, some things are meant to be mysterious, like find joy in the mystery. And I'm like, no, mystery, and so it's it just goes back again to my precious husband who runs runs off of the cliff and jumps into the water, and I'm over here like, "Oh my gosh." Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that is absolutely, absolutely, I mean, just when I hear you saying that, I'm like, "Yikes, the
Yeah.
mystery." But I know that it's a very important thing, you know?
Mhm.
I know.
I am curious
I
if
know it
there
is.
like you shared about, stillness, is there anything else that you do in the stillness or any other practices that are helping you or God's using to help, transform you currently in your
Yeah,
patterns?
so I have here's my little note on my desk. There are 2 things that I am practicing on working through every single morning, starting my day off with clearing the throne and meditating on certainties.
Mm,
Um, if I clear the throne and I don't allow fear to sit as king, if I don't allow
mm,
control to sit as king, if I don't allow even good things, right? Like security, safety, any of those things, if I don't allow them to sit on the throne where God belongs, my life goes so much easier and so much more smoothly because my priorities are definitely in order when God is at the top. But then the other thing is meditating on certainties. Um, if I drift in the mystery for too long, then I'm like, "Oh," but if I meditate on certainties and sometimes that even looks for me like in a very anxious moment being like, "Okay, the grass is green." Something I also know is that my name is Rissa Messer. My address is blah, 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 blah. I was born on this day. My husband is this. Those trees, birds live in those trees. Birds eat worms. Like, I know that sounds so like like elementary, but it is just so real for me. Like I have to take myself back there sometimes and meditate on certainties. Because my mind has this tendency to drift to, well, this could happen, and then this could happen, and then this, and then I find myself in this spiral, right? Another thing that I'm doing too is like if I can't fix it right now, then I'm not gonna worry about it. If I'm at home and I have not like a health issue that needs to be like addressed like immediately, but it's 9 o'clock at night and I feel a bump or something. Um, I give myself like permission to rest and be like, nothing I can do about it right now. I'll have to worry about it tomorrow. Like almost scheduling my worry, that kind of helps me. I'm like, well, tomorrow at 9 a.m., I'll worry about this. Right now, though, I'm spending time with my family. We're having a really good time. We are connecting. This is not time for that. I'm going to put that aside for later.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, definitely clearing the throne, meditating on certainties, reminding myself in every situation, no matter what that looks like, um, that I can never be separated from the love of God. And that would be something that would actually be worth worrying about is if there was some way, and that's, that crushes me sometimes for our brothers and sisters who think that there are other ways to God than following Jesus. It crushes me because I think, man, for some of them, they think they're always at risk of losing that connection with God, or maybe they don't have that. They think that the veil has not been torn, and that they have to go through someone else or to someone else in order to connect with the God who made them and
Mhm.
loves them. And that pains me because part of what makes that statement true for me, that like statement of, hey, Rissa, like nothing can separate you from the love of God. So truly nothing is not figure outable. Nothing is unsafe, truly. Um, I rely on the fact that I can instantly connect with him. And so one of my greatest prayers, one of my deepest prayers is for those who feel like they don't have that or that they can lose that. And I'm so grateful for the fact that
Mhm.
um, I know that it cannot be lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I love your heart for others. Like you said in the beginning, there's not a single
Thanks for that.
person that you don't love, and I think that is such a gift that, God has given you to make sure belovedness is passed on, that
Uh,
you have, shared that with others, and that, that type of security and trust, um, yeah. And
yeah,
you've walked through moments of just feeling like you don't have any grounding, and you have to look and see that the grass is green and the birds are in
yeah,
the trees, and, you know,
definitely.
and just name what's true, and we all have to get back to that elementary place of just the here and now, and what we do know.
Uh,
So good.
definitely.
Well, I so appreciate your just willingness to just lay out a little piece of your life so that people can
Yeah,
learn from you. They can hear about the inner life of a six, and just your ministry to just serve and love others no matter where they're at.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, is there any way that people who want to get in touch with you or just follow your journey? I
Yeah,
mean, do you use social media or
yeah. So, actually, I have found that for my mind and my heart, comparison is absolutely the thief of joy.
yeah,
Excuse me. And so, social media is difficult for me, so I
that's
avoid it
fine.
pretty well. But anyone can always reach out to me via email, which I will give to you so you can post.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that in the show notes so that if somebody's like, "Boy, I really would love to just hear her perspective on that," or they resonated with your story, I know you'd be willing to chat with anybody. So
Absolutely.
love that. Well, I
Absolutely.
close every show with a blessing. So, Rissa,
Yes, please.
may you be aware and open to everything that comes to you today, welcoming it all for your transformation.
I love it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Transforming Us podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the conversation and that you found it helpful. If you loved what you heard, we would really appreciate if you would take a moment and leave us a 5-star review and rating. Your support helps us reach more listeners like you.
And also, don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more relationship content. Then, if you're looking to take your growth to the next level, check out our coaching services and groups at transformingus.org.
We're here to help you transform your patterns and enjoy more secure relationships.
Until next time, in the words of Raoul Shane, you do not need to do big things. Just do small things in a big way. Then transformation will follow you.